You're listening to Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast. Comics, television, movies, and more. If it impacts fan culture, we have something to say about it. And now, your hosts, Michael, Jordan, Cliff, and Seth.
Feel like I'm at the Adelphia.
Same effect.
That was our intro music. You're supposed to be rolling into the show.
You gotta warn a brother. Hey, welcome to the show, apparently. My name is Jordan Lowe.
I'm Cliff Barnes.
I'm Seth. Michael went to the bar by himself. Like a regular mailman.
Wow.
Cliff Clavin.
Hey, Clippy. Yeah, he needs to unwind. That's how he unwinds. But this is how we unwind. By recording podcasts.
Evidently. That's how we do it.
That's right. Terrible news. This is shocking news. When I take my break at work to eat lunch, Frasier is always on rotation for a million years. And they switched to Golden Girls.
Oh.
What do? I don't dislike Golden Girls.
Yeah, that's a good show.
There was a hilarious line for the 2 seconds I watched. Rose, Betty White, is like telling one of her stupid stories from whatever town she's at. What town was she from?
St. Olaf.
She was talking about a herring juggler, and Sophia's sitting there in the kitchen with her, the old lady or whatever. She's just listening to her, looking at her, and she's just like, herring juggler, and she's like, they juggled herring. She's like, no, it was a herring juggling tiny ginzus, and almost filleted himself. And Sophia, I'm just getting ready to turn the channel, and Sophia just looks at her and goes, I hate you. And I was like, perfect. That's probably the best line in the whole series. Oh, wait, I have another non-sequitur here. Because I keep forgetting to say anything. Do you guys, first off, I don't know your opinion on comic strips, what your favorite comic strips are, but which we probably should maybe do that sometime. I'd say my top three are Bloom County, Far Side, and Calvin and Hobbes is far and away the number one. But the Berkeley Breathe started doing some more Bloom County a few years ago, and I just discovered it or whatever recently, and it was when I started reading, it was the end of the pandemic, and they've got Bill the Cat is totally wrapped up in all the he's got all masks and stuff and hazard suit, and when they finally tell him he can take it off, he takes it off, and it's not Bill the Cat, it's Hobbes. and so for the past several weeks or whatever, they're trying to figure out, what the deal is. Opus is walking around with Hobbes. People think it's a stuffed animal, but just the same thing. But now this past week they were searching for Calvin. So they're like, that's the big thing, is like, what's a 40-year-old Calvin you'll look like when they get to him. So I'm excited. I can't. This is good stuff.
Yeah, it's been good since he's come back, and he's able to do a little less there's no censorship from the newspapers. Like he posts whatever he wants to online, and it's not R-rated, but there's things he complained about for years not being able to, or getting feedback that he didn't want from the syndicate and the newspapers. But and he can add dashes of color and extra fun things you could never do in the paper.
I was kind of wondering when you said that. I was like, you read newspapers?
They still have. Somebody brought in a newspaper in the other day and left it at work, and like, man, I haven't looked at it. I looked on my phone. But, I mean, just the comic strips are still there, and like it's got the old one. And I mean, I'm talking. It has the Prince Valiant and Rex Hup or whatever his name. All the really dumb, the ones you hated, that were like such a small snippet of a story.
Oh, there's a scandal in Lower Salem right now about newspaper delivery.
Oh,
of like missing day. They'll miss 2 days in a row and then deliver 3 papers at once, and like the old ladies in Lower Salem are not having it. They keep calling and complaining, but nothing's getting done with it.
Are those missed things lining up with like Friday Night at Philadelphia?
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of a delivery person would be so irresponsible. It's
hard to hold on to those, they're trying to hold on to this Mayberry atmosphere out there. And if they stop the paper, that's going to be a problem.
It all falls apart.
How many subscribers do you have? And wouldn't you really want to keep them happy?
Yeah.
But apparently they're not too worried about it. So
Otis is at the Adelphia.
Sounds like Cold War code. Like Otis is at the Adelphia. Hey, speaking of Cold Wars,
I saw it coming.
Russians, spies.
Not necessarily doing spy things.
Not really, but
yeah,
that's as good a segues we're gonna get for this one.
Right.
Marvel is back, everybody. After what, 2-year hiatus, we got our first Marvel big screen movie, The Black Widow.
I know you are. Go back to where it all started. Where did you think I was all this time? We have unfinished business.
My girls are the toughest girls in the world.
I'm sorry. We had our orders and we played our rules. It wasn't real. It was real to me. To me, you were everything.
Bring her home.
Je sais pas ça. She's such a mom. One thing's for sure. I'm done running from my past.
Yeah, this was my first trip back to the theater.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
I haven't been since whatever the last one. What was the last one we saw? I know I saw Bad Boys and Birds of Prey. Which one was it?
Birds of
Prey was the
last one.
That was it. This is the first time back.
Were there any kind of, this was Marietta you went?
Yeah.
Were there like seating rules, like you had to space out, or mask rules or anything whatsoever? No.
I don't think there was any rules during the pandemic.
No.
Just if you were brave enough to go, we're open.
You can lick the butter right off the spigot.
That's right. There was, it was typical, not that many people there, it was opening night. It was that Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
I called and was like, which one of these showings is the big screen? Because they had it in 2 theaters. So I think most people went to the other
and they
showings.
Said, hey, that guy's coming back.
Yeah, that's what I guarantee.
What it was.
I'm the only one that calls. I guarantee it. They know who I am.
They had a year
turn
off.
the air conditioner on. He's coming back.
Yep. So, anyway, I got in there and got to see it on the big screen.
Did they have your seat open?
Oh yeah, my bro. Yeah, there was plenty of room in there. Plenty.
Yeah, I rented it on Disney
premiere.
Plus. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought about it, but if it had been 20 instead of 30, I might have done it.
Well, I was a little disappointed because going into it, I thought I kind of made the decision that day, and I was like, I'm just going to rent that. And then when I got home and saw it was $30, I was like, oh, like, ouch. But
that's what Mulan was, so I figured it would be.
But in the end, had we went to the theater and saw it, it would just tickets alone would have been $50. So
yeah.
And I that way I could watch it as, often as I would like. And, whoever is on our account could watch it as often as they like. So
share it with your legal children. Yeah, I had every intention of going to the theater. I was going to wait till after that opening weekend and go see it probably Monday. But then Cliff says, hey, child of mine, here's access. So I was like, okay, I'll log into Cliff's account.
Yeah.
Check it out. So yeah, watching it on Disney Plus, it wasn't a huge different. I'm sure it looked cool on the big screen. There's some good action pieces, but
I'm sure it was fine. I'm not going to snob it up that I saw it in the theater. It was fine. It was big.
Yeah, that was the first one I've rented that premium access deal with them, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it afterwards, but I liked the movie enough to where I was like, okay, cool. That was, I don't feel like I got ripped off or anything in any way. So that was a nice experience for the first time.
So what'd you guys think of it?
So this is the long-awaited origin story of how she got that vest she was wearing in Infinity War.
Exactly. And how she got that suit she was wearing in Endgame.
So those we've been waiting for answers on that front for years now. So we finally answered a few of those questions. But no, this was set right after Civil War in that timeline, which I thought was smart. It's an era where she's off on her own. That you always get that question. Why don't you just call Thor to help you? Like, okay, no, she's got to deal with this on her own. She's estranged from the Avengers at this moment. So that's a good time to set this.
Yeah.
But I can't help but think it would have been a good time to make it. Like,
yeah.
Why didn't you make this movie back then? If you want to set it then, you had plenty of time.
Pipe in our theme song. Pearl Mother. Pearl Mother. Pearl Mother's the problem.
Pearl Mother.
He didn't want the women stuff. But yeah, I tried to think what it would have been like had it come out in that timeline. How it would have played.
Because her story is over. And now we're going back, which you could do. Comic books have done that for we have flashbacks and origin stories and retcons and reboots. Like that's not something we're not used to. But it's like, would this have had a bigger impact if it was her continuing evolution rather than, her story's done, let's go back, circle around, and fill in some stuff to see is it important or not?
I think the one reason I think it would have had a bigger impact in continuity is because in the end of Endgame they would have had them standing there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would have been dope. Like that would have been really freaking cool. If they had the kid from Iron Man 3, they're gonna have at least have David Harbour or Florence Pugh standing there, and that would have been freaking awesome because otherwise she was kind of forgotten at the end of that movie.
Oh, absolutely.
And, that was Tony Stark's funeral, but they would have been standing there and it would have been like a remembering thing and that extra touch. So
yeah, I went back and
I wish for that.
I even watched Endgame after we'd watched Black Widow. I went back a couple days later and I was like, I'll watch this. And yeah, it definitely would have made a difference. Cause I had that thought too of like, okay, if this had been filmed, in order, then immediately, at least I think David Harbour, if nothing else, would have had some impact and been a big hit. and they would have felt compelled to include him in some of these other stories and movies and stuff. So
I think that I think there's a chance that he could be. Like, I don't think they planned on that, but he was great in this.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's my other major piece of criticism. We can get the bad stuff out of the way first, I guess. Is that's always been the knock on this character. Scarlett Johansson's a very famous actress. She's a good actress. The character is interesting, but she's always kind of in the background of the Avengers movies.
Mm-hmm.
These movies, there's big personalities and big, extravagant action, and Scarlet Witch is always, or Scarlet Witch, that's not her name, it's Black Widow. Black Widow. See, I've even forgot her name. She's so unimportant.
Her name's Scarlet.
I forgot her name. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she's always in the background of these team movies. So hey, let's give her a solo movie. And what do? She's on a team with people who are way more interesting than her.
Yeah.
Every other character, everybody in the family was so intriguing and interesting and funny and clever, and like she kind of faded into the background of her own movie.
Yeah.
So it's her time to shine, and it's okay. It wasn't a solo movie. It's good to have other characters, but like all the other characters were more interesting, and it's like that never really, like we talk these Disney Plus shows, give people real big spotlights, and you fall in love with these characters again and learn a lot more about them. And I don't feel like that happened with Black Widow.
I totally agree. But that character has always been like that in the comics, and she's always been that side character.
There's a sidekick or a girlfriend, or it's always been kind of the role.
And it's too bad, but people like the character. They like it, but no one knows what to do with her.
Mm-hmm.
And they proved it. But luckily, this supporting cast was great. And the story had the right mix of Vin Diesel voice family and humor. I mean, those are the two things that I wasn't expecting in this movie, and did not know that I needed. Like what if you'd asked me what this movie was going to be? We thought we knew what this movie was going to be. Like, It was just going to be like cookie cutter, very serious, and I mean, just not what it was. Like it was.
And going by the numbers. Oh, here's what happened in Budapest, and here's how we got a vest, and setting up all that stuff that fitting in the puzzle pieces that we've missed in her origin. And it did that a little bit, but it was its own story. It was very much its own thing.
Right. I thought it was going to be Black Widow, Budapest. But then we got all those rich characters. And so much of the movie was dialogue and just interactions and just pouring on the family stuff. And I loved that. I could not get enough of that. Like, I really want to see it again. You might have to give me your password, Cliff.
Yeah,
I figured you would be into it because it felt very Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
it felt like less than a superhero movie and more of like a spy action thriller that you always gravitate towards. So I about half hour into it, I was like, okay, I get why Seth was digging it.
And I love the humor of Florence Pugh and David Harbour, just like ridiculously good, both of them.
Yeah, that was definitely that was my favorite part of the whole thing, was just those two going back and forth
and their terrible Russian accents. Bring it, all of it. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Just even that like Mr. Incredible moment when he's trying to shove that suit on, I was just like, yeah.
Yeah, I saw something today, him talking about that or something, saying how he's like, they like make a mold of your body and then they make this suit around it. He goes, and then when they went to shoot that scene, he's like, they freaking laundered it like a new pair of jeans in the dryer that now I got to try to put this thing on at 275 pounds. But yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to. I think we all did. We were all pretty engaged into that movie. Sit down and watch it again. And yeah, I mean, even like I I was very similar. I thought it was going to be just, oh, this is what happened in Budapest, and I thought I had already, just from the preview, nailed down like Taskmaster. I was like, oh, that's going to be.
So did I.
I was like, that's
sure
totally going to
her.
be Rachel
Right.
Weisz, and I know what's going to happen. And then
I loved what I did not know. Like at partway through, I'm like, well, it's not her.
yeah,
And like I expected, like
Yeah.
everyone just nobody
When they-
really talked about it. It's going to be her.
yeah,
And then the what it ended up being was like so good. Like, you know,
Mhm.
I thought that was great.
Yeah, I did too. I was pretty happy with the whole thing, especially not having very high expectations going into it, because I thought, oh, this is just a moneymaker. They're just doing this to, you know, send her off and so they can say finally, oh, well, we made your Black Widow movie, you know.
If you'd have told me that at the beginning of the movie, first off, they go right back to your era, Cliff. They right back
Oh,
there,
yeah.
1985, 84,
Pretty
somewhere in
sweet.
there. Perfect. I expected to see you sitting there opening a present.
Do you know who the girl was that played young Natasha?
No, but she go ahead.
Her name is Ever Anderson, and she is the daughter of Mila Jovovich.
I was going to say she looks like Mila Jovovich.
Huh.
So her and the director Paul W.S. Anderson, who did all those.
I wish I would have said that before you told me that, because that's who she reminded me of.
Yeah, she has the same very intense looking eyes. And
Wow.
stuff, and like, and
No
said
wonder she looked like her.
she speaks Russian already, and she does, you know, martial arts and gymnastics. Like, so she's training to be a young Mila Jovovich. So
That's amazing.
kind of perfect.
First off, just that Americans vibe. Like, I don't know, you guys didn't watch that show. You might watch a little bit of it. I don't know, but it's
In
like
you.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what it was. You did.
Yeah.
They had anyone that even knows of that show knows that's what that is, and that they did all the heavy lifting for them. You know, I don't. Before this movie, so we were like, oh, okay, that's kind of the Americans deal. But I think it was after the cold open when they okay, they've taken, or we're going into spoilers here. Okay, now we've given you a chance. But if you don't want to be spoiled for Black Widow, cut and run. But anyway, after the cold open, which was exciting and good, you know, I like that. But if you'd have told me that the opening credits were going to be with an alt version of "Smells Like Teen Spirit," I'd have said, of course it is, and of course, what another cookie cutter, exactly what I think it would be. Instead, I was like, I couldn't have settled into my seat more. I loved that. The vibe of that song. I can't wait to see that again. Like, just that it really started to give it that seriousness of like, oh, look, it's, you know, what was the name of that movie with Jennifer Lawrence? It's like Red Sparrow or something like that, or what?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I saw that movie, and it's like the super dark version of this, but it gave this opening with the Nirvana and stuff sounded like, I mean, it started to give that vibe, and you really they didn't pull too many punches as far as what was going to happen to these girls, you know, how they were going to be trained, and it was dark and all that. And, you know, I like that from Marvel, that they allowed that vibe to come off there at the beginning of the movie, that they're going to be treated poorly. Even David Harbour is like awful, you know, letting them be used. But that really set the tone. I was like, okay, they're going to take this seriously, but somehow have this humor. Like, so good.
Well, there were a couple of interviews. The director was Kate Shortland, so female director. Didn't have a lot of experience, no blockbusters under her belt, like just some short films, some TV work, a couple little indie movies, but I'm not sure who she is or how she got here, but they trusted this big budget movie with her. But there are some discussions. It was right in the Me Too era as this was being developed, right as all that stuff was breaking. So the director and Scarlett Johansson both said that was so important to layer that in, that idea of women being stronger together, as the talking spoilers, as they all break out and help each other. And then, Ray Winstone, the villain, was basically supervillain Harvey Weinstein, as exploiting young women and facing no consequences. And that, so as this was being developed, right as all that news was breaking, that the undercurrents of the Me Too and the feminism and stuff were pretty strong throughout.
Yeah, it was. So we got to, I will say there's a little bit too much redemption here for Rachel Weisz's character, because it seems like she was bad like the whole time.
Yeah,
that was my one. I'm gonna rewatch it, but that was the one thing I didn't quite get why she flipped. Yeah. Why, did she have to flip? I don't know. But like when we see her, she's training these pigs, and it seems like she's still involved. She's still with this group. And then all of a sudden she's not. So I don't know if I missed some important clues or if the plotting was a little
probably not. It wasn't super tightly plotted here.
And I get like, my daughter, I'm redeemed through the love of family and all that stuff, but that didn't seem like the correct the correct outcome.
But she was still good in it, and then and looked amazing. Like when she switches over into the suit and stuff at the end, I'm like, wow, that's why they cast her, because she can pull that off at her age.
She can fill out a suit.
Jeez. But
me too, Cliff. Me too. Be careful.
Yeah, so could David Harbour. He filled his suit out. But Florence Pugh, I've been a fan of hers the last few years. She's been the newcomer. She's not so new anymore, but to have got this role and brings that humor that she's able, that dry humor she was doing. I loved all the this is not a cool way to do that stuff, and just being a smart ass, because that's not something Scarlett Johansson can do. She's not, that's not her specialty. She had to play the straight and narrow in the movie, so that all these people, like you said, everyone around her is interesting and funny. So, but I don't know.
Yeah, she's the breakout. She's definitely going to be in more Marvel stuff. Like we hope that we see these other characters again, but we're definitely going to see Yelena again as a Black Widow 2 or whatever we're going to call it.
Right.
Thunderbolt, man, come on, get on the Thunderbolt train.
They're setting something up there.
So yeah, I have no idea about that post-credit sequence. If that was the thing that had already been shot.
It's a shorter version. It's a shorter.
Before Julia Louis-Dreyfus showed up in Falcon and Winter Soldier to make her official first appearance as the Contessa. So I assumed this was already shot and in the can.
I love that though. That. I mean, it seems obvious that they would do that, but you had the very professional thing with Nick Fury coming in and recruiting all these elite goody two-shoes Avengers, and then now it's the trash. She's like coming in, picking up the anti-heroes, and being the kind of snide, jokey person at the graveside, just happens to show up, almost Batman-like, just happens to be there. It's just like, I love that. That is awesome. Everybody loves an anti-hero, so you get, picking up all the bad ones along the way. That's why it just feels Thunderbolts to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think when Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out, I think they had made that announcement that or made it clear that the character had already been shot for Black Widow and was supposed to be, released a year or two ago, however the hell long we've been talking about this movie. But so
I feel like it worked better
this way,
because if that scene had just come out, like, wait, who is she? What is that? What's going on? What's she doing? Like this, we already know all that, so we didn't need a long drawn out scene there. And then again, we can throw Taskmaster into that. They didn't kill her off at the end. She might end up as a Thunderbolt or on some road to redemption.
Yeah.
That you love that character in the comics. Did you have any?
Well, I mean,
disappointment that it's so different, or did you like the twist?
Okay, absolutely no disappointment in the difference. Like, no, I think this is better. This is a better reason or whatever. This girl, they've established, why she would have been made to, do this. So I think that's better than the comics as far as I'm concerned. But still came off a little bland. Still, like, I didn't recognize enough of the moves that I'm sure that I've seen headlines of articles like, here's every move that Taskmaster did that was a move from another movie. But I'm like, whatever. I saw a couple things, but it didn't like blow me away. That kind of stuff. But so it was a little bland.
And I did, when we first see her, they're like putting a chip into the helmet or something, and I didn't quite follow. Is this her innate ability or is it technology? I didn't quite get what her skills were.
Yeah, there was no mention of it. So I was just like, okay. But yeah.
Well, there was some dumb stuff too. There was I like the whole making fun of her landing pose and all that stuff. That was funny. But there was dumb things like the whole gotta sever your nerve by smashing your head on the desk so you don't smell as musk.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe I got up for water or something, but I didn't remember there towards the end, like the David Harbour and Rachel Weisz were in the helicopter and it's going down, and then I think it just kind of cut away there, and then the next time we see them they're fine. Like there was we never saw what
it landed one time really hard. Did you not see it?
Okay, maybe I did get up.
It was a big joke in the movie. Like they said, we're gonna, we're never gonna make it, and and he's like, oh, we can make it. This thing will make it all the way there, and then the very next moment is crash, and it lands on the ground.
Yeah, I might have gotten up and walked away at that point.
Yeah, it was a joke moment or whatever. It was pretty good. Any other thoughts?
The only other thing I had written down was about Taskmaster. That my thought was, and I don't like to go, well, the movie should have done this, but my thought was, the whole thing was we got to get her to breathe this stuff and get her so she's not controlled anymore. And I'm like, I think they're angling toward she's not being controlled. She's doing this because she hates these people.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that would have been a stronger, like, why would you need to mind control her? She's out for vengeance and that kind of stuff. So I thought that was the twist they were going for, and then it wasn't. So
that would have been good. See?
Yeah.
They don't ever call us.
And then, Endgame was on this weekend at some point, and I watched that scene when her and Clint go after the gym, and the Red Skull says, Natasha, daughter of Ivan. I was like, wait a minute, how does that line up? I was trying to crack the code of how that is, and Clint says, like, they're asking, like, why are you trusting this guy? Because he knows your daddy's name, and she says, I didn't.
Yeah.
So that tied in nicely where, that's not her real father. So she has a real family out there somewhere that she never knew.
Right. And there was, I don't remember what movie it was, but there was at some point in one of the movies, somebody says something to her and calls her Dreykov's daughter from like one of the early.
Yeah, I saw that's from the original Avengers when Loki has her and is like taunting her, trying to break her with all the bad things she's done. And he says, Dreykov's daughter, like he's listing all her sins and the red in her ledger. So that was, I'm sure, just a throwaway line at some point that they thought maybe they'd get to at some point. But that, again, I appreciate the attention to detail. That I don't always go back and triple check this stuff and look for these clues. But I'm glad that somebody is.
And it's something nice it's something nice to discover on a rewatch of other things where they all tie together. That's one thing they can do with it, which is what they did, have done with these series, like we talked about with WandaVision, things like that, where they take things from other movies that weren't really anything and playing them in here to try to make it. When you can do a movie that goes back a few years, boy, you could really web in some stuff. So are we to assume? I haven't heard of. So she is going to hate Clint Barton. Ooh, and so she's going to be in the Hawkeye show.
I assumed as much. Yeah.
Maybe not in a large amount, or I don't know whether she's going to be the villain or if she's just going to be there a little bit or what. But I had not heard, and I don't even know that I love that. I'm not a big fan of misunderstandings being a plot point.
Yeah, where the two heroes have to fight each other before they team up, and
that's not my jam. Yeah. So I hope that doesn't drag on.
So yeah, a couple little nitpicky things I had, and some things that didn't quite line up, but overall I thought it was very strong for a movie I wasn't looking forward to that much, and was just seeing it. Okay, it's the next Marvel thing. It was surprisingly entertaining, and I was much more into it than I thought I'd be. And again, I think it'll be good on a rewatch. All the fun action, the hand-to-hand stuff was good. The going across the rooftops, like I said, all that Mission Impossible stuff.
Yeah, will
be fun to watch. It'll be on cable every weekend.
Yeah.
So we all liked it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the big Marvel movie out of the way. Any other movies you've seen recently? I saw another big feminist action film just came out on Netflix, Gunpowder Milkshake.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen the trailers and stuff for that.
I need to exchange some books. Come. Scarlett's kid. How is your mother?
Haven't seen her in 15 years.
Mom! Let's get you into a good book.
You'll need a Jane Austen.
A Virginia Woolf. And an Agatha Christie. For reading.
Sam, your talents are needed. Somebody stole from us.
Who's crazy enough to steal from the firm?
Is it done?
There's a change of plan. They have an 8-year-old girl. I can't leave her to die.
Sam, you killed the wrong people. You're no longer under our protection.
Some bad men are coming to hurt us. We have to go where it's safe. Hi, Mom. Am I a grandmother? God, no.
Yeah, it's one of those that maybe I'll catch up with whenever I get Netflix again.
Yeah, that is Karen Gillan.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how you pronounce that, from Doctor Who, and she's Nebula in the Marvel movies. Lena Headey, Michelle Yeoh, Angela Bassett, and of course, Carla Gugino. So a powerhouse cast of strong ladies. And it's a very pulpy action sort of movie. It's Karen Gillan is an assassin. There's this syndicate called the Firm, and it's John Wick feeling of in that sort of thing of all these rules for getting assassinated and stuff. But I thought it felt a lot more like Kingsman to me. In the kind of violence and the action and the just over the topness, but it also had a real Jackie Chan feel of like.
Wow, you're throwing me all over the place. I don't know what to expect now.
It's super violent, but it had that Jackie Chan kind of feel in the choreography of like, jumping on a rolling chair and sliding across the room, and hitting somebody with a painting, and like just using the environment. So it's not all just gunplay.
When you say Kingsman, like I think of the way those all seem to be directed, where they're like the camera's always like following thing or mounted, or it's always very almost fake looking, that where the camera can be.
Yeah. It's not quite that. The directing is not. I didn't recognize the director's name or anything that they had done before. So the style, like actually the first fight scene I thought was really bad. It was shot almost trying to do like a one take sort of thing. What's that? Old Boy type, the hammer fight, like trying to do almost like a side scroller video game where you see all the action, and it just didn't look good. It's like, is this going to be this whole movie? But the ending couple of fight scenes are incredible. So it's not a great movie, but the action eventually gets there. And like I said, I love Carla Gugino. Michelle Yeoh is awesome. So there's some really good action, and the humor is a little bit like groan inducing. So it was trying to be this funny, over the top action thing, and it only kind of nailed a couple of those angles. So it wasn't as like over the top violent R-rated as like a John Wick, but it wasn't as clever and colorful as some of these other movies. But I enjoyed it. I thought all the actresses were really great as just a fun, over the top, turn your brain off and just enjoy it kind of movie. It was by the end of it, it had won me over, I'll say.
Yeah, that's funny because I watched a movie and I'd messaged you guys about it as we were watching it. It came out on Disney Plus, I don't know, a few weeks ago. And I described it as Little Mermaid plus a little Cugino, and we get Pixar's Luca.
We can go anywhere, do anything. We just gotta stick together.
We underdogs have to look out for each other, right?
Underdogs. This is gonna be the best summer ever. We'll ride down every road. See the whole world together. It'll be amazing. But there's just one thing.
Whoa, wait! Did you see that?
No one can find out.
Please don't take my sunshine away. Where did you boys say you were from?
About this family, this boy, he's a sea monster / mermaid type character. It's kind of like the Little Mermaid without Ursula. They don't need her to give them legs when they get out of the ocean and then onto dry land. They automatically transform into and just look like regular people, which I thought, this doesn't sound great. But my daughter really wanted to watch it, so we sat down and watched it, and we both agreed that we liked it. She liked it way better than I did, and it's a cute story. I really like they do a very good job with the animation and being giving it a real. It kind of plays between an authentic Italian background and a very stereotypical Italian at times, but as far as a family movie goes, it's got some good messaging. It's pretty over the top on like acceptance. That's the theme running through it, but it was really enjoyable. It was fun. It was cute. There's some good humor, really good humor in there. And just, they played up the naiveness of the characters and especially the two main characters of being, we've lived in the ocean this whole time and we're discovering man's world type of thing. But I was down with it the first time we watched it. Carly has been watching it several times over. So I sat down again, second time with her and watched it again and liked it. I actually ended up liking it better the second time. So I noticed some things that I didn't notice before, but that's on Disney Plus currently. So it's not the best Pixar movie, but it's pretty good.
It seems like Pixar used to be an event when a new Pixar movie came out, and now it seems like they're coming out quite more they're closer together.
They're a lot more frequent. Pixar was so groundbreaking for that first run of all those Cars and Toy Story and Monsters Inc. and on and on and on. And they were these original stories, and then all of a sudden they did what studios do, and they started making sequels. And then it just became one sequel after another sequel after another sequel. And John Lasseter went away, and they kind of got together and said, we're done making sequels. We're going back to, what made us famous, original stories and stuff. And I mean, it hasn't been up to that original standard, but I feel like they're slowly getting there. Coco was great. I loved Coco, but some of these latter ones haven't been, maybe quite up to snuff, but they are getting better. And I think partially it's, we've had a couple come out with the Disney Plus because of the pandemic instead of being in theaters. Soul was that way. That everybody
might have something to do with it. Less fanfare.
That
it's not a big theatrical opening.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, my daughter's 14 now, and like she loves Soul. She watches that movie all the time. She has really liked this Luca movie, so it really hasn't. I've noticed with her, like it hasn't missed a beat. Like she's thoroughly enjoying all these movies to the point where she's watching them multiple times. Over and over. So, but yeah, it was pretty good though. It was cute.
Did you have any other movies there, Jordan, that you saw?
Just the only other one I watched. Well, I watched a couple on HBO. I watched that movie, The Hunt.
Oh, I saw it's on there.
The very controversial film with Betty Gilpin as hunting humans for sport kind of thing. Not much to say about that one, but just that if you watch 1 minute of that movie, there's no way you can find controversy in it of like, because it's the idea that these liberal elites were kidnapping good American conservatives and hunting them for sport. And then that became, this is what Hollywood thinks of us. And it's like forgetting that in movies like that, the people who are the hunters are the bad guys.
Right.
So this was a very satirical movie, but the satire's not that good or clever, so it wasn't. I don't know. It didn't. There's no way you can confuse it for having a political agenda going one way or the other. But I don't know. It was trying a lot of use of like snowflakes and yeah,
it sounds
a lot of hot button terms used, but not real clever politics.
Sounds like a turn off to me.
Yeah, but Betty Gilpin, her performance was
I knew why
better.
You watched it. I knew why you watched it.
Well, I'm just saying,
we need a thing for her. We have this for the
Betty Gilpin.
We need to get a Betty Gilpin.
But like, she was so much better in the movie than she needed to be or had any right to be.
Right. Yeah.
And like her Southern accent almost felt real. Like Southern accents are so broad most of the time. Of like, what do you even mean? Like hers felt kind of authentic. And like she had the kind of depth to her acting. Like I don't know, she was above and beyond that. But again, for a horror movie, it had a few surprises. Like some people get killed off in very strange, surprising ways. But a mild recommendation if you're curious. But the other HBO was the Steven Soderbergh movie, No Sudden Move.
Yeah, I'd seen some good reviews on that, but I haven't watched it yet.
This one is Don Cheadle, Benicio del Toro, Brendan Fraser, David Harbour, once again, Julia Fox from Uncut Gems, Kieran Culkin, John Hamm, Ray Liotta, and a couple other maybe actors that you wouldn't suspect to see, but I won't spoil that. Set in 1954 Detroit, a couple of small-time criminals get involved with a money-making scheme that's too good to be true, and then some twists happen, and you don't quite know what it's about. Like they're trying to basically steal a file, and you don't really know what is in the file or why it's important, but people are after it, and it's worth a whole lot of money. And by the end of the movie, you get some nice ties to history, being in Detroit and the auto industry, and how Detroit was the booming capital, the center of American capitalism in the 50s, plus all the racism involved and the all that kind of looming over the whole story. So it's a fun sort of twisty crime story, but it adds on layers that again you don't even know you're getting until more things are revealed. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was great. But my problem was I got to the end and my brain was like, man, I wonder what the next episode is going to be like. I've been watching so much TV, it felt like a TV show. And I was like, oh crap, there is no more. Like this was I wasn't in movie mode. So
yeah, I'll get around to that one then. I was waiting for somebody to sell it. You sold it to me. Everybody else has been like, it's good. Fish Island is annoying, but I'll watch it now.
But there's a lot of like, no wait, why would that be there? There's stuff I didn't get or didn't follow, or why is that guy mad at that guy? But I didn't mind too much about that. It's very puzzle box sort of thing. But I thought it was in the end it was all it all worked out for me.
Good. Glad that happened. All right, let's do some one job. We had a request.
You gotta go right now. Before we go any further, this is one job. We say which thing you need to keep forever. That'll never leave us. It'll make us so happy for the rest of our lives. We'll put it on their headstone. Raise the rest for our time. Will you love it? Will you love it forever? Do you need it? Will you never leave it? Will it make you so happy for the rest of your life? Did we take one away that you enjoy what you love? You gotta know right now. Before we go any further, we pick one job. The rest say goodbye forever.
So, Jesse Starcher. I think you all may have heard of him. He made a request, didn't he, Jordan? What do you want?
He did, the Jesse. As we are wont to do in discussing people who have recently passed.
Yeah, speaking of happy endings, we like to do the sad right. Truth.
So earlier this month, director Richard Donner passed away. And Jesse wanted to know our opinions on his one job. And a few sprung to mind, like, oh, I know him from those, but I guess I didn't realize quite how many he had done.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, instantly, just, I think most people that probably listen to our show would say, oh, Superman 2, immediately. That was my reaction. Superman 2. Oh, okay. And then I was like, what else did he direct? I have no idea.
Well, he's been in the industry since 1960, according to IMDb. But like most of his career was TV shows. He directed TV for a decade, and it was all like every Western you've ever heard of, The Rifleman and all these shows. Twilight Zone, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Perry Mason, Get Smart, Wild Wild West, The Banana Splits.
Wow.
So like he directed hundreds of episodes of TV before he ever got to a feature. And that was 1976 and The Omen. So his first theatrical film going out of TV is The Omen, which is a horror classic, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, like Cliff said, I think of Superman is what I think of, but I have no attachment to that movie. Like I know there was multiple Superman movies, and I know his affiliation with like the second one, the Donner cut, isn't that the one?
Right.
Yeah, it's all that, but I don't even know if I've ever seen it. I don't know if you guys know this. I don't like Superman. so I don't really care. I'm sure I saw Superman when I was a kid, and that's about it. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't know the full story there, but I know he was like halfway through directing it, and there were some problems with the studio, so he got taken off and replaced with another director.
Right.
So if you see the original Superman 2, somebody else's name on it, but like at least half the footage was shot by Richard Donner. And then this is the first time we get that, we had the famous Snyder cut here recently, but now that was released the Donner cut, and that came out on DVD and stuff years later. So there is a Donner cut of Superman 2.
Yeah.
From the start of fan culture, that entitled fan culture, I guess.
Yeah.
I've always admired his gif of Antonio Banderas in Assassins. One of the best gifs.
Great gift director.
I mean, I give all the credit to Richard Donner. What else? Oh, I did The Toy. I see. There's The Toy.
What? That's a movie I've seen. Yeah, I've seen that one a lot.
It's a good one. Master Bates.
Yeah.
Then you got.
I see Lady Hawk mentioned a lot, but I've never seen that one.
I've seen
Fantasy.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's fine, but it would not be my pick.
No.
But yeah, it's fine. Maverick. He's a. It's a Western. It's better than it has any right to be.
Yeah.
We had that on VHS. I watched that quite a lot. I like Maverick a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. And Conspiracy Theory. He really likes Mel Gibson.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's a little problematic nowadays. But I mean, there was literally a thing the other day. Did you guys see the thing where Trump was at the UFC thing, and you can see Mel Gibson standing there saluting him. Of course, this guy that's a raving lunatic would love Trump, of course. What else you got? Radio Flyer. I know I've seen that. That's that sad what's his face Hobbit movie.
Hobbit.
Just as I said it, I was like, that's not his name. Frodo is in it, yeah. And Timeline. Has anybody seen that?
Yeah.
I've never seen it. But is that like a Michael Crichton adaptation?
Novel? A group of archaeologists become trapped in the past.
Oh.
Must survive in 14th century France.
Wow. Sounds sketchy. Scrooged. Old Scrooged. And 16 Blocks. The Goonies, which I don't know if I've ever mentioned before. Like, I never was a Goonies guy. I missed the boat on the Goonies. And when I tried to, I kind of felt bad, like, I missed the Goonies. I know that's a huge cultural milestone for people our age. And I tried watching it one time. It's terrible. It is not a good movie. Like, I'm sure it was good then, but it is. There are a lot of movies from back then that hold up, and this ain't one of them. Everybody talking over each other like a bunch.
We're gonna
of
lose some patrons.
Yeah.
We're gonna lose some patrons.
I do not like the Goonies.
I have some love for the Goonies.
I'm sure. If I had nostalgia for it, I'm not squashing that.
Yeah.
Like, yes, if you loved it back in the day, I'm sure it was everything it was supposed to be. But I'm just saying, for movies like that do still hold up, there's no way you can tell me that one does, because it's not good. I like the flavor of it. I like the vibe. A treasure hunt, whatever, and this fantastical, reality, that they seem to be going for, heightened reality, but no, doesn't work. So, but I'm sure that could be someone's pick. I guess my favorite on this list of his movies would be Lethal Weapon. Like, looks like he did the entire Lethal Weapon series, but the first one's a classic. I mean, come on, fighting Gary Busey in the rain. Gary Busey needs a thing like Carla, also her.
Yeah. It'd just be looking
Busey,
crazy.
Utah, get me too. He can just that could be his. But that's a classic. So
I have not seen that movie in so long. I don't even remember it.
Lethal Weapon.
Yes.
Okay. It was one of those that I had. Nick and I watched the first two several months ago, and they popped up on HBO or something. I was like, "Hey, you've never seen these?"
Is 2 the one where the bomb on the toilet?
That's the toilet.
I remember
Kruger
that.
Rants, South African Gold or whatever it was. Like I've seen that one a bunch, but not the other. Like I've seen all the other ones maybe once, but for some reason I've seen 2 several times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have great. I remember liking it well enough, and I know all the famous quotes from Riggs and Murtaugh and all that stuff, but it's not one that I have a great.
The fact that they are Riggs and Murtaugh are a thing, that gives it some credibility. I'm like, people know who Riggs and Murtaugh are. It's Danny Glover was good enough. Who did we keep? Who did Michael call? Donald. That's what he used to say. Anyway,
yeah, you guys don't have any love for Lady Hawk at all? Have you seen that movie?
I've watched it in the last 5 years. I had not seen it back in the day. I mean, I like fantasy stuff, and I thought it was good.
That's Michelle Pfeiffer and Rutger
Hauer and somebody else. Who else?
Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, that was a movie.
It's like one of them. They're both turn into animals or something. Like one at night, one in the day.
Yes.
So it's like, we can never meet up.
Right. Yeah. Believe it or not, it's got a cult following out there. It's kind of like it's on that. Not on
it's got
the
same like there's a group that's big Lady Hawks, like, and there's a bunch for Legend.
Okay, I was gonna say like Beastmaster.
Oh, Beastmaster.
Beastmaster's up here. Then like Lady Hawk somewhere down in here, but I mean it doesn't touch Beastmaster. But yeah,
Beastmaster was the one that I saw when I was a kid. It was if I was at my grandparents, they had Skinamax and HBO. Like I watched Beastmaster like.
Oh my god, I couldn't tell you the love I have for the Beastmaster. The Beastmaster and Red Sonja. Oh, that's a sweet spot for me right there. But those aren't Richard Donner movies. So.
No, that's my pick though. I picked Beastmaster. One vote for Beastmaster.
Well, this was a rarity. The patrons were unanimous on this one.
Superman? I didn't even look.
No,
Is that what
they all voted Goonies.
Yeah.
They get a vote then if they actually were able to. They actually count. I'd say they got a better chance of Beastmaster.
Even Valerie chimed in. Valerie doesn't always vote and let her voice be known, but she must love the Goonies as well because they should.
You know what these people should do? Watch the Goonies. I want to watch the Goonies.
Valerie has learned her lesson. She's not leaving it up to Jared to place her vote for her anymore. she's on top of it. She's like, this is going to happen one time and never again. I'm going to get my vote.
Hey, Mike found the map. One-Eyed Willie. My dad told me all about him. See, One-Eyed Willie stole treasure once, and then he got into this cave, and he's been there ever since. Trapped. You guys, just what if this map could lead to One-Eyed Willie's rich stuff? I'm setting booty traps.
You mean booby traps?
That's what I said, booby traps.
I want to go home.
Don't say that. Goonies never say die.
Oh my God.
From Steven Spielberg. The Goonies.
Do the truffle shuffle.
Come on.
Do it.
I love the Goonies. I think it's fun and exciting, but it wasn't one I watched as a kid every weekend. Like it wasn't one of those defining movies. I have a lot of love for it, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I think I would if I had watched it back then, but I just wasn't. What year was it? It must be I must be too old for it.
84, 85.
Well, I was already
85.
Yeah,
85.
I was already. That was Back to the Futureville for me. Like I had no time for any Goonies. I was riding my skateboard.
Yeah, I mean, Superman's great.
Once there was a civilization, much like ours, but with a greater intelligence greater powers, and a greater capacity for good. Moment, that world was destroyed. But there was one survivor.
Now, wouldn't that beat all get out?
Because of the wisdom and compassion of Jor-El, because he knew the human race had the capacity for goodness, he sent us his only son. His name is Kal-El. He will call himself Clark Kent. But the world will know him as Superman. This year, Superman brings you the gift of flight. Superman, the movie.
I just assumed that would be the overwhelming favorite.
Superman is great. You can't discredit it because what it did for that, it invented basically that genre of movies.
It's the first one to do it right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Because we had very cheesy, Saturday morning cartoons, and we'd had cheap live action.
They didn't put the money into
shows.
It. Yeah.
But yeah, the tagline "You'll believe a man can fly" is the most perfect thing for that movie. It was he stepped off the comic book page, and Christopher Reeve was Superman and Clark Kent, and it was a game changer. It took decades to get that quality consistently, but and I think Superman is overlong. The origin story takes it's like an hour of him on Krypton with Marlon Brando talking about Krypton and the farm and all this stuff. So
it's tough.
So, but once he gets to Metropolis and Lois shows up, and it's a wonderful movie. But 2 is by far a better film. It took everything good about the first one and doubled down on it. So if we're going by actor rules, where you get every incarnation of that actor's performance, I would get Superman 1 and 2 would likely be my pick.
The only I'm calling audible. I want you guys have to pick a Superman movie. You don't get all of them.
Well, it's not hard. Then 2, it's an easy pick.
Okay.
1 is the iconic.
That's a more exciting pick to me than just all the Superman movies.
Yeah.
Because this is shocking. I mean, I don't know. I barely know the controversy. I don't think I've ever even seen Superman 2. So, I'm interested.
See, I had a lot of love for Superman 2. Was always my favorite Superman movie.
What is this one?
It's so weird.
This is the three Kryptonians.
Yeah.
Zod, General Zod, Kneel before Zod, and all that stuff.
That's where all of that comes from. You got
was the first one Hackman? The third one's got Richard Pryor or something.
Yeah,
right?
And the fourth one is the Nuclear Man.
He's got the fingernails.
One is the land deal, and California's going to fall into the ocean, and he flies around the Earth backwards and turns back time. There's iconic moments, but it's a very silly comic booky sort of thing. And 2, these Kryptonians show up who are they're equal to Superman's strength, and they put a whooping on him. And you still have like the cellophane S that he breaks off his shield. Like there's always stuff that makes you
the little boy in the small town when they run, and he's got like a British accent. Like there's just a lot of weird stuff in there, but I always loved it as a kid. I realized as an adult that what Superman the movie was and how important it was, and it was just it's a good movie. The effects were at the time pretty amazing, but But yeah, Superman 2 that was my go-to on it. And Superman 3 scared the hell out of me as a little kid. Just that one scene when the lady gets they have the supercomputer or whatever, and the lady gets too close to it and it grabs her and turns her into like a robot, and she's got the like tinfoil on her face and stuff. That scared the bejesus. I hated that scene. I was like, nope. But and it's like Richard Pryor's almost in a different movie, the whole thing. So it was just, you know, he was hot at the time, so they were like, well, this is the biggest franchise, let's get this guy. But anyways,
so here's the deal, folks. So you're saying the audience voted for the Goonies. I'm gonna stay out of it. I'm gonna make you guys choose it, because I'm just gonna say Lethal Weapon because that's my favorite Richard Donner movie. So you guys are either gonna have to decide if you're going with the audience or you're getting together and doing something.
So,
or we can just throw the whole thing in the wash and go Beastmaster. That would be a Ka-Pow thing to do.
That would be.
That would shock the world.
We don't like any of this stuff. We're just picking the Beastmaster.
Yeah, that's
Mark Singer.
In your blurb before this episode, why is Beastmaster the best Richard Donner movie?
No.
Welcome to this episode of Budapest.
This whole list is full of really strong movies that I don't have a lot of affinity for. A lot of like culturally important movies that I didn't watch a lot of. So I think The Omen is a terrific, important horror film in the genre. You know, I think Lethal Weapon changed the face of, you know, buddy cop movies. You know, Scrooge, a Christmas classic. The Toy, a comedy classic. Like, there's so many culturally important movies on these, but none of them are in my personal rotation.
Yeah.
So I feel like Superman 2 is a safer pick. It's the one that means the most to me. But I could also I could easily lean Goonies. It's different from everything else on the list for sure, and it seems to be the consensus pick of like I said, people of our generation.
Like I said, you know, Superman 2, great. But I think I actually, after I saw the list, I thought the Goonies was actually going to be my pick. So I would agree with the patrons, and my pick would also go to the Goonies.
Well, there it is, guys.
So I'll pick Superman 2. Seth can pick Lethal Weapon, and we'll have a wide selection.
Don't put me on. I'm going in officially Beastmaster. So, in the annals of history on Richard Donner's tombstone, surprisingly, it won't say that Superman lies there. It will be just a map leading to his grave, where the Goonies all you Goonies fans can go there on your quest with your pirate map and your one good eye and find.
One-Eyed Willie.
Treasure. Yep. There you go. Richard Donner, the Goonies. We did it.
The Goonies are good enough.
Goonies. What was the tagline? Goonies never say die?
Never die or never say die. That's it. Yeah, never say die.
Yeah. Chester Copperpot! Don't you guys see? Don't you realize? He was a pro. He never made it this far. Look how far we've come. We've got a chance.
Chance at what, Mikey? Getting killed? Look, if we keep going, someone's really gonna get hurt. Maybe dead. Besides, we gotta get to the police.
Maybe Chunk already got to the police.
Maybe Chunk is dead.
Don't say that. Never say that. Goonies never say die.
I'm not a Goonie. I want to go home.
I forgot. But still, don't you realize? The next time you see Sky, it'll be over another town. The next time you take a test,
It'll be in some other school. Our parents, they want the best of stuff for us. But right now they gotta do what's right for them. Cause it's their time. Their time. Up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here. That's all over the second we ride up Troy's bucket.
It's a famed, loved movie. So I don't know where you go from there. That's it.
That's it. We wrap it up. That's where we go.
Hey, you guys! Thanks for listening to. That's
right. You haven't watched Bo Burnham? Go watch it. All right. Bye forever.
See you later.
Professional. We can't just be like stick in the mud, same thing every time. Cut them off. They don't want to listen to all that mumbo jumbo.
Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Sounds, music, and clips played during the podcast are property of copyright holders. All original content is property of www.udownwithkpp.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a comment. Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found. You can connect with us through social media on Facebook, YouTube, at the Ka-Pow Podcast on Twitter, or email the show, Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, @gmail.com. If you really want to go the extra mile, please sign up to be a patron through the Podbean app or our website, www.udownwithkpp.com, to receive special content and early access to some episodes. We are grateful to anyone that chooses to contribute, but please know that most of our content will always remain free, so please continue to like, comment, and share.